Live from clickorlando.com, this is News 6 at 5:30. This is a News 6 Plus takeover. Here now is Solutionaries.
Welcome to Solutionaries. I'm Louis Bolden. Every day we see stories of crime, war, shootings, abuse. Where does that come from? And what can we do to help the victims? Today we're taking on domestic violence. A survey from the Bureau of Justice Statistics shows abuse from a partner or family member is one of the most prevalent crimes in the United States, yet it remains the least reported.
If your partner were abusing you, would you say something? Would you do something? How much would you endure? I've asked myself those same questions, and I've come up with, I would never take that. I would do something right away. But it's not that easy, is it? Still, you should know there are resources. There is help.
Started small, just the pushing and shoving.
I was cut with a knife. I actually literally had a camera on and she tried to run me over with a car.
Where I live, just last year, there were 24,000 domestic violence calls to the two biggest police agencies. The district attorney's office filed 33,000 cases in just the last 2 years. Domestic violence is a huge problem in Houston, Texas, and I'm betting it is where you live too.
I really started noticing signs of just not healthy relationship. I was like his property, like you're carrying my child, so now you belong to me and you have to do what I say. He started getting really controlling my phone usage, controlling what I wore.
The person who is abused may feel like there is a sincere hope that the abuser is going to change.
So the question becomes, can I make him change? And the answer is no, the victim cannot make her abuser change. However, an abuser can change so long as that person makes a real and committed effort to change.
Don't feel isolated, don't feel alone. Know that you can get the kind of help that you need.
That first call is obviously a tough one. But if there's an immediate threat, that first call needs to be to police. There is another side of this, and that is the DA's office. The 33,000 cases they filed over the last 2 years, 40% of them have been dismissed.
There are many times when we will have to dismiss a case because we don't have cooperation or the sufficient evidence to prove it.
Introduce yourself to them. Let them know that this is you. This is who you are. You're not just a random number, or you're not just another case to them.
I knew at that point that I was my best advocate, and if I wanted him to be held accountable, I was going to have to be a squeaky wheel.
I think different approaches are going to work for different people. The key is you have to take action. Encourage the people you love to take action. You can't take it for them. But how do you have a conversation like that with someone?
There are many ways to start that conversation. First, call or text the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is 1-800-799-7233. For local help, reach out to resources and shelters like Harbor House of Central Florida. They have a crisis hotline, counseling and emergency shelters for survivors, kids, and their pets. And finally, if you think a friend or loved one is a victim of abuse, ask questions. Questions like these. Knowing the signs of abuse is important, and people are not the only ones that can be victims. Animals are also at risk. Here's what you need to know about animal abuse and neglect and those working to get solutions.
Animal abuse cases have exploded in the state of Michigan. According to some of the only Michigan-specific crime stats we could find, animal cruelty incidents leapt from 123 in 2016 to 607 in 2021. All of that is very clear here in the Motor City.
We see horrific things. Unfortunately, we just got two dogs who were burned with scalding water. We see gunshots. We see choking with extension cords.
A lot of times it's guessing how different scenarios played out for dogs, but what we do see is clearly the marks on their skin that tell a certain story.
And these stories are tragic, but we've found solutions, like listing and tracking animal abusers. I'll explain what that looks like in a moment. But MYRON Golden is an animal abuse investigator with Michigan Humane. Usually he's the first one to come into contact with some of the worst animal cruelty cases the city has to offer.
Emergency rescue stuff. We do get the cases where the dog is, or we pick up deceased animals sometime, situations, cruelty cases. We get dogs that they're just so far gone where they can't be treated, and we pick up dogs that's been hit by cars, shot, stabbed, burned, in conditions where they're no longer treatable.
Sometimes it can be too much, but at least Michigan Humane has the authority to do something about it from a legal perspective.
We prosecute, we write warrants, we go to court, people go to jail.
But still, for some reason, the last few years have been outrageous in terms of the cases.
Oh, good job. Over a decade at Detroit Dog Rescue, we have seen some of the worst when it comes to animal abuse.
Executive Director Christina Rinaldi says the abuse can lead to so many other negative factors, playing out even in human behavior.
A lot of the times, unfortunately, that leads to child abuse, domestic abuse, where you find animal abuse that is only usually the tip of the iceberg. We've gone on cases with Detroit police where the animal abuse has actually led to evidence of human trafficking, all of those things.
And I think that a lot of times, especially in cases like embedded collar, I don't necessarily think it's someone who's going out and trying to cause harm to an animal, but it's a case of somebody not being educated.
Rebel Dogs Detroit is a group that's been working to spread awareness on the matter. Juniper Fleming is the executive director, always asking owners on the verge of being neglectful if there's anything her organization can do to help.
All right. Would you be interested in learning about resources that give out free crates so you can bring your dog inside on cold days, or free igloos so at least your dog has a warm house on a cold day? Or would you be interested in me purchasing a collar? Or have you heard of free spaying and neutering programs?
Right side, their back leg is...
The group has been working to place stray dogs just like this little guy.
Somehow these animals, after the abuse or the neglect, they've made it onto the streets, and we're not fully sure how that happens. We're not sure if people let them go because they feel like they can't do anything or they don't want to do anything.
They also help to find fosters and eventual forever homes for the canines, the ones who can, however, find sanctuary in the group's no-kill shelter located on Detroit's west side.
If you see someone, either your neighbor or a friend or a family member who is neglecting, either on purpose or by accident, a dog, starting a dialogue with them, being in communication, starting with the first question of what might you need for support? It can be overwhelming if you start thinking about how pervasive the issue really is, but just seeing it as one conversation at a time and doing what you can to address your immediate community can be a really great way to have an active impact.
Another major issue is dogfighting, which in a way is one of the problems with the solution. These rings are so underground, sometimes they can fly way under the radar and right under a neighbor's nose. Every year, hundreds of pit bulls are seized in dogfighting rings. The sad part is that sometimes the people responsible don't see anything wrong.
We got videos of children at dog fights, like children 3-4 years old, and they're just watching dog fights. So their entire life, they don't see the issue in it. So then, they grow up and now they're an adult, and that's what their cousins and uncles and fathers and, the older gentlemen around them did. So they naturally fill the void and step in their shoes.
The good news is that the state of Michigan is creating a new animal abuse registry to keep track of those accused of dogfighting and those who are cruel to animals. Juniper says it's a great start, but there needs to be more done.
My first thought is that there should be a limit of you're not allowed to own a dog or you're not allowed to own a pet or whatever, Because otherwise, what really is the point? Okay, I know my neighbor has an animal abuse charge, but what can I do about it?
The bottom line is if you see something, say something, as it can make a difference in the dog's life down the line. And even though they're making a difference themselves, the law and rescue groups can't do it alone.
I think what keeps me going and the Detroit Dog Rescue team going there are agencies like Detroit Police, Detroit Fire, that are working so hard to rectify some of these situations, and together we have made progress in the last decade that I've been doing this, and that's what keeps me going.
Remember, these guys are family who only want to make you happy at the end of the day, so why not give them just a little bit more when they give you their all? So if you see something, call the authorities, keep an eye on the neighbor's dog, and remember to respect your own.
Stay with Solutionaries as we look at how people are working to keep kids from going down the wrong path. We're back in a moment. Welcome back to Solutionaries. I'm Louis Bolden. Solutionaries is a show that focuses on the big problems and those working to find solutions. Today we're focusing on kids and making sure they don't go down the wrong path. Police here and around the country are getting involved by building bonds with teens through sports.
Whether it's baseball or basketball, police athletic leagues across the country have one goal in mind. And that's bringing kids, cops, and community together.
Deal with all kinds of sports. We deal with basketball, volleyball, in the summer we do baseball. Here at the Pacific Center, we brought boxing at one time and jiu-jitsu. We try to incorporate a little bit of everything. There's not that stigma where like, oh, I'm an officer and I have to act a certain way.
And numbers don't lie. When kids have more free time, it can often lead to trouble.
Kids, when they get out of school, they have nothing to do. They get involved in the wrong things, right? From they get out at 4 o'clock or whatever time they get is, until they go home at 6 o'clock, they got that 2-hour window or 2.5-hour window where they get to choose whether to do bad things or do good things.
Officers will determine where youth are most at risk and make connections with school districts or parents. For Sandra Brown, it was about breaking barriers and building trust with police.
As we was growing up, we was taught, go to the police, talk to the police. Now, with all the changes that have been going on, it do put a fear in your heart that my child is innocent and something might happen with him with the police. But I had to explain to my grandson, do not be afraid of the policemen. You respect them and they will respect you.
She heard about the program through word of mouth and enrolled her 2 grandchildren. She says since her involvement, she has seen positive changes.
I want them to be confident enough that they can achieve any goals that they want to achieve. It makes me proud that I didn't have to worry as a mother. You're going to worry, but I didn't have to worry because I know they was in good care. To me, if this program wasn't here for them, they could lead them on another track. That neighborhood that we're in isn't a safe, complete safe neighborhood, but at least I don't have to worry about where they're at and what they're doing.
One of the biggest challenges for the nonprofit is getting kids to take that first step.
If you're gonna go work for a big company, you're gonna need that teamwork, right? You're gonna take your losses in life. I tell kids all the time, hey, it's not about winning or losing. It's just what matters is that you were out here. That's winning. A lot of kids don't even want to take that step. You coming out here, you're winning already.
The Police Athletic League is having an impact in Central Florida too, coaching kids to make a difference in their lives on the court and in their hometowns. Solutionaries are also working to keep students who get in trouble in class on track by changing the way kids are punished for their behavior.
Vaping, using a weed pen, or being disruptive in class. It usually gets you thrown out of school, suspended. But we found one school in Virginia doing things differently. It found solutions to change students' behavior.
We never want to punish students. We want to change their behavior.
We just show a genuine interest in the kids, and we pride ourselves on teaching them skills that they can take back to their home school setting. It's really just about getting to know them.
It's nice that I know when I send them here that they're going to come back to us with some extra tool that's going to prevent them from being in my office again.
What does the center do here?
Our Restorative Suspension Center is based off of restorative practices, and our goal is to take short-term suspensions, students that receive a suspension of 10 days or less, bring them here to this center instead of just sending them home or into the community. It gives them an opportunity to not only do their academic work and not get further behind in school from a suspension, but also to work with our teachers and our coordinator and our community partners to change their behavior. And that's really always the goal. We never want to punish students. We want to change their behavior so that they can go back into the base school with the skills that they need to be successful. When we want to change behavior, we want to get students to reflect on the things that they're doing. And when students make a poor choice, a lot of times they have impacted not only themselves, but they've impacted their teachers and their parents, their guardians, the principals, school counselor, other peers. And so it's really intentional work that we do here to get students to stop and reflect on what they're doing and what their choices are doing.
So it might be classroom disruption, it might be, disrupting the learning environment, it could be like a verbal altercation, something like that. Some students see an out-of-school suspension as a treat because it's like staying at home without having to get up early. With this type of suspension, you still have to set your alarm clock, you still have to get out of the bed and come, and you still have to get your assignments done.
Tell me about what it was like when you first came here. What was that first day like?
When I first came here, I was like nervous, like coming in, like new people and like new stuff, like surrounding and stuff. Then like I just got like adjusted to it. It's like a good environment. It like helps us out and stuff.
What would it be like without a place like this?
I'd probably be fighting, probably be in trouble. Most kids, they don't really worry about school, they worry about stuff outside of school. So I think this is a better place for it.
I mean, like, I would probably still be doing like the same stuff and like not like knowing like what's wrong and like how I could fix it and like know what the next step is instead of just going the same path.
So you'd be in trouble more and more?
Yeah.
When they get suspended for whatever behaviors it may be, we now have given them a platform to be able to talk about that stuff and equip them with skills to be able to manage some of these emotions and what may be going on at home while still being successful and functional in a school setting.
Give me some examples of some coping skills that you've been able to teach here.
Being able to remove yourself from the situation, meaning, just communicate to the teacher, hey, I'm having a rough day, this test is stressing me out. Can I take a 5-minute break? And I'm not talking about 5 minutes, to roam the hall. It could be something as simple as them just being allowed to sit at their desk, sit there, put their head down for a minute.
We do have expectations that we have here because it is a suspension, and so we want to make sure that they understand like this is a different environment. And so students who come here, we don't want to just send them right back to the base school without any type of plan or goals. And then we dive straight into the restorative work. And so we'll circle up with restorative circles, and we'll begin to share and talk about why we're here and what we need to do differently, and start to do that really intentional work to change the students' behavior.
Well, they had taught me to sit back and think about it before actually reacting and lashing out.
The results show this is working. During the first 2 months of the program, they served 88 students. Before coming to the center, those students combined accounted for more than 600 discipline referrals, which means they were sent to the principal for that person to decide how to handle the behavior issues. After attending the Restorative Suspension Center program, those students only had 89 referrals, an 86% decrease. 90% of students have not had to return to the suspension center, and more than half have not had any more discipline referrals. But there are limitations.
So right now, our limitation is space. We've been really intentional to make sure that we have enough staff on hand, but we need teachers as well. I think the other limitation is just time. Sometimes we need more intensive programs for our students, and a 5-day suspension or a 10-day over here at the suspension center isn't enough to fully change their behavior. And so that's why we have designs and plans to open a restorative academy, which will be a longer term program, 6 to 9 weeks.
Are there any limitations with a place like this?
Size and space. Like I said, we fill our slots, and so I know this is just the pilot, but we're so excited, and we would love to be able to send more students.
What have you learned from being here?
How to control my attitude, my anger, so I get mad real easily.
Everybody is focused on changing behavior instead of punishing students, and this has been a really good start. And so I think we'll only continue to grow and learn from this and make the programming better.
This summer, they'll use the center for training since there won't be students there. The few months of data they have show this is working. It is changing students' behavior and keeping kids in class instead of on the streets.
And thank you for watching Solutionaries. If you want to learn more, find this story on clickorlando.com. And don't forget to download the free News 6 Plus app to watch anytime you want. Take care.